Welcome to another Chef Knives to Go Quick Look product review. I'm Steve Gamache, and what we have this time is the Yusaku Blue or Origami number 2 Gyuto 210mm knife. So this line of knives has a 3-layer construction. The center hard core cutting edge steel, is Origami or blue paper number 2 reactive high carbon steel from Hitachi. Heat treats about 62 Rockwell on that core steel typically. The soft iron cladding covers each side of that hard core steel. So we've got a reactive soft iron cladding for a 3-layer construction. This cladding does have a kudauchi, or kind of a blacksmith protective finish, also known as a KU finish on it. You can see that there. And it's also got a lacquer, well-executed, very smooth lacquer, food-safe lacquer protective coating over the entire blade. This lacquer coating has proven pretty tough. I've used this knife a fair amount, and it's only starting to kind of wear off just a little bit at some spots along the edge. So you can leave this lacquer coating on, it'll wear off over time, or you can get some acetone and strip it off and go right to it. But this is an all-reactive blade. It looks to me like, in fact, definitely not. The cladding does not cover the spine on this, so you can see the layers along the spine, which is pretty cool. So, but it is an all-reactive blade, so don't let it sit wet. Dry it thoroughly after you're finished using it before putting it away. The weights and dimensions on these will vary just a little bit from knife to knife. But this particular one is 180 grams or 6.3 ounces. The edge length is 210 millimeters, right on the money, or 8¼ inches on the cutting edge. Overall length is right about 14 inches or 355 millimeters. These are fairly thick coming out of the handle, but they thin up pretty quickly after that. So I measured about 3.4 millimeters above the heel, and then about 2.75 halfway down the blade, and then we lose a little bit off of that, but then we get to the grind, which is a fairly generous grind, and it thins up quite well at the tip. The tip works quite nicely on this knife, and then it also thins up very nicely at the edge along the grind. So you can see this is ground nice and thin at the edge. I've been using this one quite a bit. It's a good balanced performer. I'm really enjoying using it, and it's got enough thickness to it where it's a very stiff, confidence-inspiring blade. It's got a little bit of mass to it. The grind, these kind of hard shoulders here along with the grind make food separation, very good, as well as food release is quite good. Although you pay a little bit of a performance penalty on some, wedging and some, denser root veggies and the like, but I think overall it's quite a good combination of balanced performance. So I thought it was a very enjoyable knife to use. The blade height is about 48.3 millimeters right here, so it's fairly tall. The neck is fairly thin as well. There's enough room to put your finger in there, and you can see how I've got a nice spot for a pinch grip there, so it lends itself very well to a pinch grip. Speaking of that, the balance point with this light handle, these handles are pretty light, is right about there. And for me, that's pretty close to my pinch grip, so it's a pretty neutral feel to it. But again, the blade's got a little bit of mass to it, which is nice from a cutting perspective, a little bit of cutting power. Handle is Chef Knives to Go's basic octagonal ambidextrous walnut with a maple ferrule. Basic, decent fit and finish on the handle. You could choose to polish it up a little more if you wanted to, or put some lacquer over it, but it's definitely serviceable as is. It's a light handle, which brings the balance point just about a neutral spot on a pinch grip. They've got a good glue job on here that's very tight, so nice and sealed up. The circumference on the handle is kind of a standard 75-ish millimeters, or about 3 inches where the two woods meet. Here is the beauty shot on the knife. Every one of these, I've got 3 of these in. They all have slightly different finishes to them, which is cool. So there's a little bit of natural variation, but you can see this one has almost a little bit more of a mottled or almost an Ashiji type finish to it. But it's got that KU blacksmith scale on it. It's got hand engraved or hand chiseled kanji on the right side, which is a really nice touch. You can feel that when you run your fingers over it. Here is the left side of the blade. There's an embossed kanji on the left side, and you can see the kind of finish to it. The finish is pretty smooth. Part of that is the lacquers smoothing out the texture a little bit, but I have a feeling even without the lacquer, it's going to be a fairly smooth KU finish to it. Just a nicely crafted blade. It's very straight. The grinds look clean. They cut really well. Let's take a look at the profile on it. And you can see the tip on this, it's kind of almost a spear point, so it's not a very high tip. So you can see kind of a gentle belly. I use this one, as I said, quite a bit, and you know, it'll chop a little bit towards the back. I really didn't have any issues with accordion cuts or anything on, you know, various things that I cut. It's definitely not super flat. You got a little bit of a flat area towards the heel, but just kind of roll into that. It's just kind of a low belly overall. Again, the tip's fairly low, so I can get right in there for the, right about there, the tip wants to start digging in. You could tweak that with the final 1 or 2 millimeters on a sharpening session and sweep that up a little if you wanted to, but you know, this really isn't a high rocker. It's just, it really rocks low stuff well, it push-pull cuts well. Not a pure chopper, but kind of good, kind of a tweener profile. It does nice tip draws because the tip's not super high, so it's a pretty nice profile on it. So it's a very nice looking knife. It is totally worthy of a handle upgrade. In fact, I've got some Joe Bone handles from Joe Marone in custom handles. I did some videos on those, and you know, this one right here is a sample of one that's fairly close in length to the original handle, and that would look pretty sweet on that knife, wouldn't it? So I don't know, this handle may go on this knife. I don't know, this knife might stay here. We will see. So, but really cool knife. So enjoyed using it a lot. Highly recommend it if you're into this type of knife and something that's all reactive, but with really nice, easy to sharpen Aogami No. 2 steel. So this is the Yusaku Aogami or Blue No. 2 Gyuto 210mm knife.